Welcome to the ClearlyWell podcast. I'm Elizabeth McKeon, a board-certified psychiatric mental health and addiction recovery nurse. This podcast aims to bridge the gap between mental health and substance use discussions, fostering understanding and empathy while reducing stigma. Join us as we amplify the voices of those with lived experiences, creating a non-judgmental space for their stories to be heard. Thank you for tuning in. Did you know that Whitney Houston passed away on February 11th in 2012 at the very young age of 48? She was found unresponsive in a bathtub at the Beverly Hilton Hotel in Beverly Hills, California. The official cause of death was accidental drowning with heart disease and cocaine use listed as contributing factors. Hey guys, this is Elizabeth McKeon with the ClearlyWell podcast. Welcome to today's short sesh, which is going to be moving right along with the Did You Know About Whitney Houston. I want to give proper credit back to people.com and their story that was shared online December 9th, 2022 by Liz McNeil. The title of that was Inside Whitney Houston's Long Battle with Addiction. She did drugs to escape the pain. That's the title of the story. So the reason I chose to talk about that is just there are so many famous and popular folks in Hollywood that have struggled and battled with addiction. I mean, you name it, everything from Whitney Houston, Michael Jackson, Matthew Perry from Friends, I mean, that are no longer with us. And it pains me. All of these people were extremely talented folks. And another one that comes to mind is Mike Sorrentino from Jersey Shore. If you haven't listened to his audiobook or read his book Reality Check, I would encourage you to check it out. You know, I know he comes across like a pompous, a-hole on the show of Jersey Shore, but wow, was it a wake-up call for me to hear him call himself out for his manipulation and his long struggle with addiction and substance use disorder for many, many years. And I now watch him on the Jersey Shore Family Vacation as a grown man who's giving back to the substance use community in the places he lives and all around the U.S. really, and speaks out about it. So he is a person who probably should not be with us, that still is. So I just want to give him the proper credit as well. So now back to the Inside Whitney Houston's Long Battle with Addiction story with People magazine. I read this and I just thought, why try to recreate it when it's been written so beautifully by Liz McNeil? This is the story of the late singer's losing battle against substance use disorder from the people who really knew her. So I think that's an important piece to talk about, is that this wasn't a perspective. This was coming from family. In 2005, Sissy Houston knocked on the door of her daughter Whitney Houston's Atlanta home after her son Gary warned her that Whitney was in trouble. Though she had long worried about her daughter, whom she called Nippy, and her drug use, nothing could have prepared her that day for the haunting scene where Whitney lived with former husband Bobbi Brown and daughter Bobbi Kristina. Somebody had spray painted the walls, painting big glaring eyes and strange faces. Sissy wrote in her 2013 memoir, Remembering Whitney, "There were evil eyes staring out like a threat, and in another room there was a big frame photo of Nippy, Bobbi, and Chrissy, but someone had cut Nippy's head right out of it. When Whitney appeared at the top of the stairs, the once stunning star who had sold more than 170 million records and racked up 6 Grammys. Sissy told People, "This looked like someone I didn't know. I knew my daughter was in grave danger at this point." And as we all know, Whitney Houston, a star, tragically died at 48 from accidental drowning. However, cocaine was found in her system. The swirl of stories and drama included her mother's book detailing her anger and anguish over Whitney's drug addiction and later feud between the Brown and Houston families. In 2016 memoir, Every Little Step, Brown opened up about their doomed love story and how drugs helped lead to the undoing of their marriage. "The drugs wasn't her," Brown said in a 2016-2020 interview with Robin Roberts. By the way, fun fact, if you look at my social media page, you will see a lovely picture of me with Robin Roberts in Washington, D.C. I was actually there attending a nursing conference, and Robin Roberts was there attending a gospel conference. She's a very faithful person. I spoke with Robin about her cancer, and she thanked me for being a nurse, and we got our picture made together. Her lovely wife was the one that took the picture, and I'll never forget how I thought she looked just like herself on the morning talk show. She was just as beautiful in person, so I thought it was worth stating that. So back to the story. So the drugs weren't her, Brown said in the 2016-2020 interview with the lovely Robin Roberts, revealing that he first saw Whitney taking cocaine just before she was to walk down the aisle in their 1992 wedding. A tearful Brown told Roberts, "She did drugs, but the drugs didn't do her. She knew how to handle herself." So in this story, it moves on to talk about the pressures of fame. And when I hear the term pressures of fame, I often think about folks like Britney Spears and Justin Bieber, and these folks that, you think about like the pressures of these young kids and going into fame while they're still growing up and their brains are still developing. It is no wonder that there is so much trauma, drug use, depression, anxiety, suicide. I think about Avicii, who took his life. He was one of the best electronic dance music folks in the industry. I still listen to him to this day. So going back to the pressures of fame, according to her friends and family, who People interviewed at the time of her death, there were 2 Whitney Houstons, the dazzling pop princess groomed by Arista president Clive Davis, and the girl from Newark, New Jersey, who rebelled against pressures to be perfect by turning to drugs in her early 20s. There were a lot of expectations in terms of who she was, and then who others thought she was. A close family member told People in 2016, "I think not being able to be herself 100% was a hell of a burden for her to have to carry. Someone may look good on the outside, sturdy and strong, but on the inside, you have someone who has insecurities, family issues, and emotional, personal issues and struggles." After Davis signed her to his label in 1985, she had to do what he said, wear what he said to, sing what he wanted her to sing, and act like a goody two-shoes when she was really a down and dirty girl from Jersey, said a record executive that had worked with her. Whitney really, really resented that. A life of rebellion. Entering a romantic relationship with Brown, the two wed in 1992, and they had, as we all know, an explosive marriage that ultimately ended in 2007. And using drugs were her rebellion against it all, said the family friends. There had to be an outlet. For her, it became drugs. Whitney had done drugs to escape her pain. The family felt that they were rendered helpless. When no one else was around, it was Houston's daughter, Bobbi Kristina, who looked after the singer. Once showing up at Houston's Atlanta house, the family source recalled that at 11 or 12 years old, Bobbi Kristina, answering the door, said Whitney wasn't feeling well, so she had put her to bed. I went upstairs to her bedroom, and the room was a disaster, with piles of clothes, dirty dishes strewn about, and Houston asleep in the midst of it all. It was truly, the source said, a bedroom of a junkie. And I just want to state for our listeners that I don't subscribe to using the term junkie at all, nor the term addict. I try to refrain from that, but this was a direct quote from the writer. Though she entered rehab multiple times throughout her life, Whitney struggled with addiction, and it ultimately did take her life. This is a direct quote with reporting by Casey Baker, Steve Helling, and Tiffany McGee. She was in pain from all the pressure she was facing, the pain from living a double life, said the record executive. She was doing ridiculous amounts of hard drugs, and all of her God-given talents were sacrificed for that. So that's the story. If you want to look it up, I did not give every detail from that story. It was pretty long, but you can just type in people.com death of Whitney Houston, and you will get this story, and it's full. I don't know. It's full appearance from people.com. So thank you guys. That was kind of a sad story, a little bit of a Debbie Downer today, because one of the things that we do on this podcast is we try to bring mental health into the substance use disorder space. It doesn't always look the same, but this is the first time that I've talked about or shared an experience of someone who did not recover and someone who actually passed away, probably as a direct result of their substance use disorder. And I think the saddest thing about this was that she is one of the greatest and all-time singers that we know in the United States and probably the world, and somebody I grew up listening to, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners did. So glory to God for Whitney Houston. Prayers for her family. I'm sure they're still in mourning to this day. So thank you for tuning in. As always, if you want to be a guest on the podcast, please email me at clearlywellpodcast@gmail.com, or you can private message me on social media. I wouldn't do it on TikTok because I get hundreds a day there, but you on Instagram or Facebook, I'm more likely to see your message. But please just email me at clearlywellpodcast@gmail.com. And thank you all. Love my listeners. And thank you for the amazing emails that I've been getting lately. I want to state that please do not substitute this podcast for professional therapy or treatment. The content shared here is for informational and entertainment purposes only. We do ask our listeners to respect the diverse experiences of individuals and refrain from passing judgment. If you or someone you know needs professional help, please seek the guidance of a registered and qualified mental health professional. ClearlyWell is brought to you by Healthy Georgia and produced by CNC Media.